It looked like just another birthday clip at first. A few fireworks, loud laughs, voices overlapping, brothers joking around, nothing that screamed headline moment. The kind of video people scroll past without thinking twice. But this one didn't fade. It spread. And the more people watched it, the more it started to feel like there was something else going on beneath the surface. Because this wasn't a polished highlight reel. There were no sponsors, no perfect angles, no brand-friendly editing, just raw energy, real reactions. The same words repeated over and over, not because someone told them to, but because the feeling was too big to fit into a single sentence. That kind of emotion can't be staged. You either have it or you don't. And that's exactly why this moment hit differently. In a world where most athlete content feels calculated, where every post looks like it went through a PR team before it touched the internet, this felt almost uncomfortable. Too loud, too genuine, too unscripted. It wasn't about showing status or flexing success. It was about presence, about being there, about celebrating without needing to prove anything to anyone watching. That's rare, especially at this level. Most players, once they reach this stage, start acting like characters instead of people. They curate personalities. They protect images. They turn moments into marketing. But this didn't feel like a performance. It felt like a window. A small one, but clear enough to reveal something most fans never get to see. And that's where things get interesting. Because when you strip away the stats, the debates, the rankings, the hot takes, and the endless commentary, what you're left with is the part nobody can fake: mindset. How someone reacts when there's nothing to gain, when there's no camera angle to protect, when the only people in the room are the ones who actually know them. That's why this birthday matters. Not because of the age, not because of the celebration, but because it quietly shows what kind of environment he's really in. Support without conditions, confidence without noise, comfort without ego, the kind of foundation that doesn't show up on a stat sheet but shows up when pressure hits. And here's the part most people miss. In a league built on dominance, toughness, and emotional armor, this kind of openness feels almost rebellious. It doesn't match the image people expect from elite athletes. It's not aggressive. It's not flashy. It's not trying to intimidate anyone. It's grounded. And that makes some people uncomfortable because it challenges the idea that greatness has to look a certain way. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want to stay locked in on all the latest NFL drama, make sure you hit that like button. It helps the video reach more people who love this content just like you. And if you're new here, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss another update, reaction, or storyline as it unfolds in real time. I also want to hear from you in the comments. What do you think about ShedeurSanders' performance and the Browns' collapse? Drop your thoughts below and let's talk about it. And don't forget to share this video with friends who follow the NFL. Your support truly keeps the channel moving forward. This moment doesn't scream superstar. It whispers something more dangerous. That he's not alone. That he's not chasing approval. That he's not performing for the spotlight. And when someone enters the highest level of competition already this secure, already this supported, already this calm, it changes everything. Because pressure doesn't break players like that. It sharpens them. And this small, loud, chaotic birthday clip might be the clearest sign, yet that the rest of the league is paying attention to the wrong things. What makes this moment stick is what's happening on screen. It's how it feels. The yelling, the laughing, the same words getting thrown around again and again, not because anyone ran out of things to say, but because nobody wanted the moment to end. That's the kind of energy you can't script. You either capture it or you miss it completely. Most viral athlete clips today follow a formula: perfect lighting, clean audio, subtle flexes, everything designed to look effortless while secretly being carefully controlled. But this wasn't controlled. It was messy in the best way. People talking over each other, cameras shaking, jokes landing, then getting repeated because everyone's too hyped to move on. It didn't feel like content. It felt like being in the room. And that's exactly why it hit so hard. There's a big difference between being entertaining and being real. Entertainment is about performance. Real is about presence. This wasn't someone trying to look cool for the internet. Nobody was posturing. Nobody was trying to dominate the moment. It was just shared excitement, shared history, shared space. The kind of thing that usually stays private but accidentally went public. That's rare at this level. Because once athletes reach a certain point, everything becomes strategic. Every smile is measured. Every interaction is filtered. Even friendships start to feel like collaborations. But here, there was no hierarchy, no star of the room, just brothers moving in sync, feeding off each other's energy without needing to prove who mattered more. And that dynamic says more than any highlight reel ever could. It shows comfort, real comfort. The kind that only comes when someone doesn't feel threatened by the people around them, when they don't need to control the narrative, when they're not worried about being outshined or misunderstood. That's not insecurity masked as confidence. That's actual confidence. The dangerous kind. Because players who feel secure don't get distracted easily. They don't panic when attention shifts. They don't crumble when criticism hits. They don't chase validation from strangers. They already have what most people spend their entire careers looking for, a foundation that doesn't disappear when things go wrong. And that's what the energy in this video really shows. Not hype, not clout, not status, stability. In a league where so many careers are built on image and ego, this feels almost out of place. Too relaxed, too human, too unbothered. Some people will call it soft. Others will say it's not serious enough. But that reaction says more about the culture than the moment itself. Because the truth is, real confidence doesn't need to announce itself. It doesn't walk into a room trying to dominate. It doesn't need to be loud to feel powerful. It just exists. Steady, unshaken, comfortable in its own space. And that's exactly what this energy reflects. No tension, no forced toughness, no performance mode. Just someone who knows exactly who they are and doesn't feel the need to pretend otherwise. And that's the part you can't fake. Because cameras can capture faces. They can't manufacture chemistry. They can't recreate trust. They can't force people to feel at home in a moment. That only happens when something real is already there. And once you see that, it changes how you see everything that comes after. Because talent can be developed. Skill can be trained. But this kind of energy, it's built long before anyone starts watching. And that's what makes it so dangerous. Most players spend their early years trying to get noticed. He spent his trying to survive attention. From the moment his name started circulating, he wasn't just another kid with potential. He was already a storyline, already a debate, already someone people had opinions about before they ever watched him play. That changes everything. Because when you grow up under a famous name, you don't get the luxury of being invisible. You don't get to fail quietly. Every mistake feels louder. Every success gets questioned. And no matter what you do, someone always thinks there's a reason you didn't earn it yourself. That's the pressure most people never see. It's not just expectations. It's suspicion. The constant idea that you're only here because of who you're connected to, that your opportunities aren't real, that your work doesn't count the same. And when that narrative follows you from childhood, it does one of two things. It either breaks you or it rewires you. He chose the second. Instead of rebelling against it, he leaned into it. Instead of trying to escape the name, he carried it. Not as armor, but as weight. The kind that forces you to grow faster than everyone else around you. Because when the spotlight never turns off, you learn early that excuses don't work. People kept moving the goalposts. First it was talent, then it was competition, then it was the system, then it was the coaching, then it was the environment. Every time he answered one question, a new one replaced it, and instead of getting louder, he got calmer. That's not normal. Most players respond to doubt with noise. They start talking, posting, proving, defending. He did the opposite. He kept showing up the same way, same demeanor, same focus, same refusal to play the victim role, almost like he understood something most people don't learn until much later. That you can't control narratives. You can only control consistency. Growing up like that forces a different mindset. You stop chasing approval because you realize it never lasts. You stop reacting to criticism because you realize it never ends. You start building internally instead of externally. You measure progress by discipline, not applause. And that's where the real shift happens. Because by the time most players reach elite levels, they're still learning how to handle pressure. He's been living inside it his entire life. Pressure didn't arrive with fame. It created it, which means the situations that shake other people barely register for him. Crowds don't overwhelm him. Critics don't distract him. Expectations don't paralyze him. They're just background noise. And that's the part people don't like to admit. He didn't grow up protected from adversity. He grew up inside a microscope, every move watched, every decision judged, every success labeled as luck. That kind of environment forces you to either develop emotional armor or fall apart quietly. He didn't fall apart. He adapted. And now, when people talk about how composed he looks under pressure, how calm he feels in big moments, how unbothered he seems by chaos, they act like it came out of nowhere. It didn't. It was trained into him. Not by coaches. Not by systems. Not by fame. But by growing up with a target on his back before he ever had a chance to put a jersey on. By the time most people first heard his name, the work was already done. Not in theory, not in potential. In real numbers, real wins, real seasons stacked on top of each other. The part of the story everyone skips is the part that actually explains everything. Because long before the debates, the rankings, the cameras, and the crowds, he was already dominating in silence. His high school run wasn't just good, it was surgical. Game after game, year after year, the same pattern kept repeating. High-pressure situations, big moments, tight games, and the same result every time. Control, precision, wins, not one breakout season, not one lucky stretch. A full body of work built over multiple years. Over 12,000 passing yards. 166 touchdowns. A near-perfect record. National championships. Those aren't highlight numbers. Those are system-breaking numbers. And what makes it more interesting is how little attention it gets. In a culture obsessed with viral moments, people treat high school success like a footnote, like it doesn't matter once you reach the next level. But that mindset misses the real point. High school is where habits are formed. That's where you see how someone prepares when there's no spotlight, how they handle responsibility before anyone is paying them, how they respond when the crowd is small, the coverage is minimal, and the only motivation is internal. And that's exactly where he separated himself. Anyone can show flashes of talent. Anyone can have a good season. But piling up 47 career wins isn't about talent. It's about consistency. About showing up the same way when nobody is forcing you to. About treating every rep like it matters, even when there's nothing immediate to gain from it. That's discipline before discipline becomes fashionable. What people don't realize is that this period is what shaped his entire approach to the game. He didn't grow up chasing highlights. He grew up chasing control, reading defenses, making clean decisions, avoiding unnecessary mistakes, playing chess while everyone else was playing checkers. That mindset doesn't suddenly appear at the college or pro level. It's trained early. And that's why this stretch matters more than most fans think. Not because of the stats themselves, but because of what they represent. Years of doing the right things when nobody was watching closely. Years of building muscle memory around pressure. Years of learning how to lead without needing attention. This wasn't a prodigy moment. It was a construction phase. Brick by brick, game by game, season by season. The kind of foundation that doesn't look flashy on social media but shows up when things get chaotic later on, when defenses get smarter, when the hits get harder, when the margin for error disappears. That's when this background starts to matter. Because players who skip this stage usually struggle when they reach the top. They rely on raw ability. They chase moments. They get exposed when the game speeds up. But players who have already lived inside structured pressure adapt faster. They don't panic. They don't force plays. They don't need to be told how to prepare. They've been there before. And here's the uncomfortable truth. This high school run wasn't just impressive. It was a warning, a preview of what happens when someone builds real habits early and never abandons them. It shows a pattern that keeps repeating at every level. Calm under pressure, efficient decisions, long-term consistency over short-term noise. People love to say greatness comes from potential. But in this case, it came from repetition. And that's why this part of the story matters more than anyone wants to admit, because it proves he wasn't created by hype. He was built before the hype ever arrived. When he arrived in Colorado, it wasn't just a transfer. It was a test. New system, new expectations, new spotlight, and an entire program suddenly under national scrutiny. The cameras didn't just follow the team. They followed him. Every throw became a statement. Every mistake became a headline. And every win came with an asterisk from someone who didn't want to believe it. Because at that point, the conversation was already divided. Some saw a rising quarterback ready to lead a rebuild. Others saw a storyline they didn't trust. A famous last name. A high-profile coach. A media circus waiting to collapse. And instead of easing into the role, he walked straight into the pressure like it was familiar territory. That's when the identity war started. Was he really that good, or just protected by the system? Was he the engine of the offense, or just riding the momentum of a flashy roster? Was he leading, or just being carried by star talent around him? Those questions followed him every single week, no matter how well he played. And the numbers didn't help the critics. Over 4,100 passing yards in a single season, the most in Colorado history. A completion percentage over 74%. That's not volume. That's efficiency. That's control. That's a quarterback seeing the field clearly while everything around him is moving at full speed. Add in a near-perfect touchdown-to-interception ratio, and suddenly the narrative starts falling apart. Because systems don't throw passes, players do. You can design a scheme. You can build an offense, but you can't fake timing. You can't fake decision-making. You can't fake accuracy under pressure. Those are individual skills, and he showed all of them consistently, even while playing behind an offensive line that struggled and under defensive pressure that never stopped coming. But instead of getting universal praise, the noise got louder. People said it was inflated, that it was a college environment, that it wouldn't translate, that he wasn't really being tested. And somehow, the more he delivered, the more the standards shifted. Like there was always another invisible bar waiting to be raised. That's the real identity war. Not between him and defenders. Between him and perception. Because no matter what he did, he was still fighting two opponents. The one on the field and the one in people's minds. And while most players crack under that kind of constant doubt, he didn't try to argue with it. He didn't try to dominate the conversation. He just kept playing the same way. Calm, efficient, unbothered. While others chased viral moments, he stacked clean drives. While others tried to look electric, he focused on being effective. No unnecessary risks. No hero ball. No panic decisions. Just steady execution in a system that was under more scrutiny than almost any program in the country. And that's what made people uncomfortable. Because he wasn't behaving the way a hype star is supposed to. He wasn't loud enough. He wasn't emotional enough. He wasn't chaotic enough. He didn't look like someone trying to force greatness. He looked like someone who already expected it. That's why this Colorado stretch matters so much. Not just because of the records, but because of what it revealed. A quarterback who can perform while being dissected daily. Who can lead while being doubted publicly. Who can stay composed while the entire football world debates whether he belongs there at all. That's not just production. That's psychological durability. And once a player proves they can survive that, the game stops being about talent. It becomes about who can handle the truth of being watched without breaking. After everything he had done, the next step was supposed to be simple. Strong college career, record-breaking season, national attention. The usual path pointed in one direction, early draft. Franchise opportunity. Fresh start with a team ready to build around him. That's what most people expected. But when draft day came, something felt off. Round after round passed. Names were called. Quarterbacks with weaker numbers, shorter track records, and less pressure experience came off the board first. And with every pick that wasn't his, the tension grew. Not just among fans, but across social media, analysts, and insiders who couldn't quite explain what they were seeing. Because it didn't match the script. By the time he finally went later than projected, the conversation shifted from excitement to confusion. And almost immediately, the uncomfortable questions started surfacing. Not official statements, not confirmed reports, just patterns people couldn't ignore. Why did teams hesitate? What were they really evaluating? And what made front offices so cautious? Some fans believe it was purely football, scheme fit, play style, risk management, the usual draft logic, but others started speculating that there was more beneath the surface, that it wasn't just about arm strength or mechanics, that it had something to do with image, control, personality, the things teams rarely admit they care about but quietly do. Rumors suggest some executives were nervous about the spotlight he brings. Reports claim certain organizations prefer quarterbacks who blend into systems, not ones who arrive with their own gravity. And it's been said that having a famous last name doesn't always help in closed-door meetings, especially when decision-makers worry about external influence, media pressure, or losing control of the narrative. None of that is proven. But the conversation exists for a reason. Because the NFL isn't just about talent, it's about comfort, about predictability, about choosing players who fit into existing power structures without challenging them. And when someone enters the league already confident, already supported, already unafraid of attention, that can make conservative systems uneasy. Not because they can't play, but because they can't be managed the same way. And that's what made the draft slide feel different. It wasn't like he failed interviews. It wasn't like his tape collapsed. Nothing about his performance suddenly changed. The only thing that changed was the environment. He went from being evaluated on the field to being evaluated as a long-term investment inside an organization. And that's where things get political. Some fans believe teams were scared of the expectations. Others think they didn't want the pressure of developing someone under constant media coverage. And a few even speculate that his independence, his confidence, and his refusal to shrink himself made certain front offices uncomfortable. Again, none of this is official. But when a player with his resume doesn't go where logic suggests, people start looking for invisible factors. The ones that don't show up on stat sheets, the ones that never make press releases. And that's what makes this moment so telling. Because whether the slide was about football, politics, or perception, the result was the same. He entered the league with something extra, not just motivation, not just hunger, but awareness. Awareness that the system doesn't always reward the best fit. It rewards the safest choice. And once a player understands that, they stop expecting fairness. They stop waiting for validation. They start playing a different game entirely. Not just to prove they belong, but to prove that the league miscalculated. And that's when the draft stops being a setback.
If you enjoyed today's breakdown and want to keep up with all the drama, trades, and behind-the-scenes action in the NFL, then don't forget to hit that like button. It really helps this channel grow and lets us know you love this kind of content. And hey, don't keep it to yourself. Share this video with your friends, your group chats, or anyone who loves football as much as you do. The more the conversation spreads, the better it gets. Most importantly, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel and tap the notification bell. That way, you'll never miss when we drop fresh stories, wild rumors, or breaking updates that the mainstream media won't talk about.